Jessie, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and Loeffler Randall?
Sure. My name is Jessie. I'm 45. I don't know if I should maybe you need to edit that part out. I live in Park Slope in Brooklyn. And my husband and I have had Loeffler Randall for over 16 years now, which is kind of crazy. We started it in 2004, and it started as a shoe brand. And so, we had a lot of early success. We were super, super lucky. And then we've kind of, all these years have happened. We've had 3 children, and he kind of takes the more business side. He deals with all the marketing and the legal and the operations piece, and I am in charge of the design piece, which I love doing. So so that's kind of our story, a very quick version of our story.
How do you define your customers? Like, tell me, who are Loeffler Randall's customers or best customers?
Yeah, so I feel like the brand really starts with me, and more than looking towards my customers, I'm looking inward at myself and also the people that work with me. We're the customers of the brand. What do we want? What's our lifestyle? What are all the different things that we need our shoes or our jewelry or our clothes to do? So it really does come from passion of what I want to have in my own wardrobe. So that's really been a nice kind of through line. Is I think the aesthetic has remained very consistent throughout the years. It's very, very tied in. And I think it's very important when you have a brand to remain true to yourself, because you can get really swayed by what's selling or like what a retailer wants you to do. And, you have to take, I think, those hard stands on like what feels right. And that's always been an amazing guide for me. But in terms of our customer, I think one of the things that I love most about our customer is that we really, our brand does appeal to a wide range of people. A wide range of ages. You're just as likely to see my mom wearing these shoes as someone who's in high school going to their prom. So it's really, really nice. Just the wide range of people. And, we're actually trying to, move away from any kind of gendered language. We really want the brand to be a brand that people can participate in. And so we're looking at expanding our footwear sizes. We already go up to a size 12, which is pretty rare in the industry. So it's great. I mean, I think we kind of play with what our aesthetic is and what we love and what my team loves. And then our customers are attracted to it versus it's never felt natural to me to sort of like in a calculated way say, this is who the customer is. Now let's build the product that we think they want. We've kind of approached it the opposite way. And maybe that's not the smartest thing to do, but it feels natural to me to sort of start with that passion and what I really want.
I say so many times, and I almost think the listeners are going to almost tune into what you just said and say like, Kristen's going to disagree with this. Like she's going to come back because all I ever say is like, know your customers and start with the customer. But there is this level of knowing your customer that it has to come back to an authentic place of knowing your customer. And I think that what you're saying is you are your ultimate customer. And a lot of times that real human knowing what your customer wants means understanding what you're passionate enough about to speak very directly to someone else who is passionate about the same thing. And that can get kind of like this dichotomy between what does the founder want and what does the customer want. But in the most like holistic commerce way, those things are one and the same, because then you're able to sell from an authentic place and sell to someone who has the same emotions. And I actually have this quote from you guys, this kind of like brand statement that I love, and I think highlights and summarizes everything that we talk all the time about, this human to human connection that retail brings, that like a real authentic brand can bring. And this is what you're doing, is saying like, I listen to my customers and I know that they are real humans. And at the same time, I want to make sure that like my human needs are met so I can meet their human needs with our product. And this quote is, in a world that has become increasingly tech-focused, we believe in the power and emotion of human contact. And that to me is like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that myself several years ago. I don't know. I mean, if I'm being really candid, I feel like several years ago, all we were hearing about was, the market changes and every year there's some hot new brand and we've kind of been around forever. And I was hearing so much about these purely D2C brands, and a lot of them had sort of been created, it seemed like in like a business school format, or there was a market to tap into, which is fine. But it's just a different approach than what I was interested in doing. And I felt like that was a differentiator for our brand because our brand really is built on passion. And it was about real people who really care about this stuff. I mean, down to it was also about just touching the raw materials in our design process. And, I always encourage my team, instead of drawing, we have the sewing machine, we're making little mock-ups. I feel like we can be more creative that way. So, obviously, technology is our friend, and my husband oversees that whole piece. But I am someone who loves to touch raw materials. I love to, have people in our store interact with us. I love Instagram because it's enabled me to have a dialogue with people. So I think it was sort of my way of talking about authenticity and about coming from a genuine place. Versus utilizing technology to kind of connect me to people. I wanted to sort of have a more authentic and tactile relationship with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so much about the conversation I had with Allbirds where, I talked to their head of global retail operations and we're talking about this like massive scale of retail. And the thing he said to me that like really stuck out was, we are focused on a human to human interaction and technology is in the background helping make that more enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And like, that was the thing that I was like, right. It comes down. And when I read I read this statement that you wrote was, this comes down to this like passion and you gotta love what you're doing. And you have to have this human emotion behind it so the technology can improve those relationships. Without any of that passion, like, an email is an email and a text is a text and a confirmation email is a confirmation email. But when you really care, it turns into something different. Now I want to get into this retail side of your business. You guys have been around for 16 years, family-owned business.
Yep.
Really great growth. Kind of almost going against the whole like new D2C model of like grow as fast as you can and then profitability will come later. Like you guys are really...
We did the opposite.
Yeah, you did the opposite. Yes. Very sturdy growth. And 16 years into the business, you decide to open a retail store. And you opened it in 2021.
Terrible timing.
Why now? Why retail? What was the conversation that was going on to make this decision?
Sure. Well, we signed the lease in January of 2020. So that is part of how it happened. But
I've heard this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad that we did. But we had kind of always wanted to have a store, I think. But my husband and I had twins. Our first children were twins. And then 3 years later, we had another one. And I think we were just sort of like overwhelmed. And I understood how much work a store was going to be. And so I think it was a little daunting for me. Plus, I didn't really want to have a store that was just shoes. I wanted to sell, I wanted the store to be the way that I like to shop. I'd like to buy, I'd like to be able to buy a little bracelet for my friend. And I want to get like some candlesticks for my home. And I want to be able to buy a beautiful dress, a pair of pants, and then get a pair of shoes. So I wanted to make sure that we had the breadth of the assortment before we embarked on this, because I also feel like a shoe only store, if it's not a sneaker store, I feel like it can feel a little intimidating. And I wanted it to be really inviting. Our brand is very warm, inviting, friendly. And so I wanted the store to just feel wonderful when people walked in, and I wanted there to be sort of like the whole world of Loeffler Randall in the store. So that was sort of like how we got to January 2020. We had built out this small ready-to-wear capsule that we only sell to ourselves, which is really nice. And so we signed the lease in January, and then, the whole world imploded in March.
Yeah.
But, it really was, of course, it added more stress to an already incredibly stressful situation. But once things started to turn around, it was an incredibly wonderful and positive experience to have something to look forward to. It's just been so wonderful for the brand and for my team. It's so inspiring for our team. We loved working on the design project. I love working on interiors, and I got to work with my friend Poonam on the interior design. And it was a wonderful, happy, positive thing. And it was funny. Someone asked me, what does success for the store look like to you? And I was on a call with Brian, and I said, well, for him, I know that my answer is not going to be his answer. But for me, I said, the store's already a success in my opinion, because I love how it came out. I love all the special details in that store. It communicates the brand so well. And it was such a creatively invigorating exercise for me. And it continues to be. It's a laboratory for us. So for me, I don't want to do no sales, but it was already a success. He's the financial guy. So he's the one that cares about that stuff more than I do. But it has been a success, I think, in the measurement of how I measure it and how Brian measures it. You hear in the news like, oh, New York is dead, no one's around. That's not true. There's a ton of people walking around in Soho, and we've had a lot of traffic, and the store has just been wonderful. So it's just been a happy, positive thing. It's sort of like we didn't get as bogged down in sort of the negativity and the depression. Although we went to that place maybe over the summer, but it was like, this was the thing that was like, okay, someday we're going to get through this. And this is the thing that will already be in place and ready for when it all comes back. And that's sort of how it played out.
I am so excited to kind of dig into this store design aspect of it, because you have this design background. A lot of the products come from your own brain and passion and imagination of design. And the most exciting part to me, like, I come from this D2C background, going into retail, like especially D2C going into retail, is like, all of a sudden you have to think about your brand in this 3-dimensional way, this 360 degree. Like, what is every piece of your brand? Like, when you talk to Goriana, they talk about like, oh, we made a signature scent when we opened a retail store because we figured there's so many things happening. We got to get them involved in all of it. From the design perspective, how did you even approach taking that brand identity and making it 360? I actually have a quote from who you designed the store with, who said the store is like a little jewelry box. And I have a little bit more of that quote, but I want to open it up for you to say, like, how did you go into that design of going from product design to then store design? You open up from kind of this very specific function and design to a larger 360. And you're talking about not just what does our shoe represent, our brand represent, but what does the entire experience of our brand feel, look, taste, smell like? How did you approach that? And what was kind of the outcome of that design perspective that you went into it with?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it was harder to not have the 360 representation of the brand than it was for me to come up with the 360 representation. And, shoes are so sculptural. So we've been working in 3D all along. It was really nice. I worked with Poonam Khanna, who is a friend of mine. She's so wise. She's so kind. Anything that she likes, I like. I feel like our brains work really well. I trust her so much. And she had designed our office space a number of years ago. It was the first office that we had as a company that was actually designed. Every other office we had was just sort of a little bit thrown together and was more functional. But this was the office that I'm in now. We really were thoughtful about how it was designed. And Poonam always was sort of encouraging me, like, how are we going to tell the story of the brand? I want to bring the raw materials of the brand. I want to bring the details of the brand to life in the space. So it was really amazing. And Poonam and I are always coming up with these ideas, and Brian wants to kill us. Like, we had this idea. We use this like beautiful Italian vachetta leather in our collection. I've used it every season basically that we've had the company, and we were like, let's put it on all the desks. All the desks will be covered in the like Italian vachetta leather. And Brian was like, you guys are insane. But we did end up putting the leather on in a couple of key places in the office. Like, it's on my desk, and everybody has like a mouse pad made out of it. It's in like a couple different little places, and it's so special. So I had already worked with Poonam, and I was so comfortable with her. So it was really great. And, we were like, I want to say, like, we were like 50% done with the construction of the store when the whole pandemic, when everything shut down. So we got to do this really wonderful ideation for the store when everything was happy and everything was good. So it wasn't like we were designing from a place of the pandemic is going on. It had already been designed. So I think that was really, really nice. And my head of design that works with me, she was really involved also. We just sort of like, we started with things that we love, and we used to travel a lot for work, for inspiration. So we had just been to Marrakesh. I was super inspired by the kind of earthy textures and the tones. And then Poonam had this idea for this beautiful curtain that would reference the pleats that we use in one of our most popular groups. So it was actually a dream to work on it. And I love how we can tell the story of our brand. Like, when you pleat fabric, you have to lay paper on it before it goes in the pleater machine. And so we repurpose that paper to wrap up our sweaters and ready to wear that we sell.
Oh, wow.
So we're giving like a little piece of the process back to our customer and helping to tell the story. So there's a lot of little details like that are so special. And I love working on stuff like that. And I love interiors. So that was super fun. Of course, we had all these crazy ideas that didn't happen. Like, we wanted the whole front of the store to be made out of tile. That didn't happen, but maybe like store number 2 will have the tile front. So, but no, I'm so happy with how it turned out.
I feel this natural, which I know like single store owners have this dichotomy between, we really want to do this thing because it's what feels authentic and real and feels like what our customers would just find special in that like wow moment of retail, and also like money and expenses and like what's the ROI of it. And there's so much of it that's like, there are little touches that you can't attribute back to ROI all the time, and you have to just trust that we're building something so much bigger in this experience that they're going to come back. What has that experience been like entering retail? Do you have any lessons or challenges or learnings or stories from coming from that place of like, you have this internal, external pull between you and your husband saying like, I want to do all this because I know the brand, it's me, I know what we want to do. And him saying like, okay, but it's crazy and expensive. And like this back and forth, you obviously found a really, really good middle that makes a lot of sense. Oh, has there been anything surprising, any stories that pop out in your head that you're just like, this is what made retail so special for the brand?
I mean, it's been just wonderful for me because, when you're talking about things like ROI, and I feel like I'm pretty frugal, so I'm not like spending crazy amounts of money, but I really do care about the experience, and I am a huge shopper myself, and I know what really comes through to me. And I think the things that do feel, authentic and also are different than what other people are doing. I don't want the same exact thing that you can get everywhere. My husband and I had an epic battle about the bags for the store. That was like our biggest point of contention. I wanted them to be cloth bags that use the scraps from our design process in a quilted pattern. And of course, he was so annoyed at me. He wanted just, like recycled paper shopping bags. And yeah, I mean, that was like one of those cases where he just kind of went rogue and he did his own little design project with that. And I did my own little design project with that. And, maybe I think both were necessary actually. So maybe that's the lesson of it, because we definitely are using both of those totes. But for me, my little repurposed scrap quilted ones really help tell the story, and also reusing raw materials. So for me, I'd rather have the one that is cloth and special. But there's the practicality piece. The other consideration I would say is that it's really important. You're creating this really special, amazing experience for people in the store, but not all of our customers can come to the store. So I think we have to think about what are the things that we're doing in the store and how do all of those things come to life on the website. So our customer needs to have an amazing experience on the website in the same way that our customer would have in the store. So I think that that's just something that we always have to be thinking about. How do we keep those experiences distinct? And, one example is we have a really big bridal business. So, obviously we're doing virtual appointments, we're doing in-store appointments, but I really wanted people to be able to customize their shoes with their initials and the dates of their weddings. And so we are in the process, or almost ready to launch it. We're in the process of making it possible for people to order online and to have that special customization to their product as well as in the store. So I think that's just a really important piece of it, is just to remember that our customers kind of come from everywhere. I mean, I'd say the majority of our customers are in the tri-state area, but we definitely want everyone to get a really special experience online too.
Yeah, it's that. And my listeners know that, like, I kind of hate this term and I throw it around a lot, but I have many different definitions for it. But it's this like omnichannel view of we have customers who are coming into the store. I hate it because it makes brand owners feel like they have to be literally everywhere, which is very impossible for even the brands with like the most VC money out there. Being omni is impossible. And this idea of like, a lot of your customers are in that tri-state area, but you still have to give that online experience that you could get in retail, that personalization. Are there any other lessons that you've heard from the retail store that have then transitioned to online and changed the way you do things on the e-commerce side?
I feel like, we're just getting started. We just sort of opened the store a couple months ago. So we're really learning a lot, but I think mostly, because I focus on the design piece, I feel like the learnings have been really interesting from a product level. Customers come in and they'll give us suggestions of a color that they want to see in a certain shoe. And so we're getting that kind of feedback, but also, our ready to wear has been so popular in our store. And so that's been really exciting. So it's just a really wonderful laboratory for me. Like, we can get a really small run of something produced and put it in the store and see how the customer responds to it, as opposed to doing like a really big production run and you don't know whether it's going to connect. So I feel like for now, that's kind of how I've been learning as I go. But we have the best retail team. They're amazing. And they send us a recap email every single day with their favorite customer interaction, all like their favorite story, their favorite, like, there's so many different wonderful things that they put in that recap email. So they're always giving us feedback. And I think that that's really amazing.
I love this idea of like the store as a laboratory. And what's interesting is we've talked to like Igloo, which almost had the exact same statement, but in the opposite way, where they've been wholesale for 50, 60, 70 years, have been around for so long, where their D2C is almost their like R&D laboratory kind of place. But for you guys, the store is a laboratory. And the best part about that is what I want the listeners to get out of it is like, whatever channels you're on, figure out which is your hero channel and which is your kind of like laboratory testing channel and which is the one you just get to know customers. It doesn't mean it has to come at a loss. Like you can still make profits on it and do all the right things, but like you can test things better in a channel that works for your brand. The most most interesting thing I find about your brand is we've talked to so many people who are kind of on the cusp of like these new up and coming fresh D2C or local brands who just got in the last couple of years. You guys have been in the business for 16 years, and 16 years is I mean, it's an incredible feat just to be around for that long in this climate of commerce in general. How have you guys grown? How have you managed this kind of like long-term success? And what have been the biggest challenges or learnings along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I never really felt that I had an option to fail. All our eggs are in this basket. We both work here together. So, I love there's a quote by Mark Jacobs, old business partner, where he said, we didn't have more failures than anyone else that went away. We just didn't give up. And that was like sort of the success of their story, was that they just were, as you say, like resilient, relentless. I had a very, my mom always wants to kill me when I say this, but I had a very boring childhood. My mom,
your mom should love this. It's a good thing. A boring childhood is a good thing, Mom.
It was very, very boring. My mom is Scandinavian, and we didn't have like tons of toys. It was just sort of like she was not in any way like art directing my fun. It was like, oh, you're bored? Well, then figure something out, So I feel like I have an enormous capacity to stick with things. I definitely am not a quitter. I don't think I've like ever quit anything in my life. I mean, even to the point where like I probably should have like walked away from certain things. I just don't ever give up. So, and I have an enormous capacity to be very bored and to just like keep showing up.
and at risk of being as meta as I can possibly be, because I think in this last question, you answered with one of the best definitions of resilience. But I have to ask the question because our audience is going to expect it. Jessie, what does resilience mean to you?
I think resilience means just not giving up, even if you want to, being really true to your gut and just sticking with something if you believe in it. I think, for me, it's my capacity to just never, ever, ever give up. And I think part of it is just being hopeful that even when the times are really, really tough, I always, even when times have been bad, I've just always believed in our brand. It didn't matter. I just always believed and the times that I didn't believe were the times when Brian did believe. So it was very nice for us to have that to balance each other out. And I always say this almost in every interview, but the brand wouldn't exist without both of us. I would be hand making shoes in my kitchen if it was just me, because I love to hand make things. I sort of think on a more like intimate scale of like making things with my hands. And Brian's the entrepreneur. So I think we really balance each other out. And so for our brand, I think resilience has been a result of our partnership of kind of bolstering each other and keeping each other going.
I love it. It's the whole essence of the show is the marriage between the analytic brain and the sales focused short-term brain and the long-term customer interaction and passionate brain. I think that's what is the magic sauce of especially local retail. That's what, when you walk into a retailer that you've also seen in the bars that you go to and you know the owner and you have this connection, like that is irreplaceable. And I don't believe it'll ever go away, which is why the show exists. And I am so thankful that you were able to come on and talk to us about this and give us such a real example of those two sides working together to create something so beautiful that has lasted for so long. And looks like you guys are going to continue to grow and be successful for a long time coming. So we are so excited to watch you and continue to follow your growth. Thank you so much, Jessie, for being on the show today. This has been such a fantastic conversation.
Thank you so much. This was so lovely to sit and chat. I had a great time. I really appreciate it.